Hi, everyone. I'm Katie McManus, business strategist and leadership coach. I'm already cracking up. I've been on in the behind the stage with Moxie LaBouche today, and I'm so excited to have her. She's a voiceover artist. That's how I describe you, right, Moxie?
You can call me any way you want.
Okay, beautiful. And her tagline, well, I'm going to let you say it because you say it so beautifully.
Well, that you should give your project some moxie.
That, and also about what you do all day.
Oh, this is borrowed from a mentor that I sit in a small padded room all day and talk to myself. I've had a lot of taglines over the years, so you got to be more specific.
I'm sorry. That was the one that made me feel like, oh my God, I have to be friends with this woman. Like, I have to be connected with her. I have to know her.
Lured you in.
Oh my God, it did. It did. And for those of you who are watching, I'm streaming this through StreamYard. It's going to both the Facebooks, to LinkedIn, to YouTube. We have wild dogs in the background, but we like this to be interactive. So if you have any questions about voiceover or of any of the things that Moxie is up to, then please pop them in the chat. We like this to be interactive. And Moxie, you won't be able to see the comments, but as they come up, I'll pop them over so that they appear on our screen.
Great, got it.
Okay. Cool.
Yes, you can ask me about voiceovers, ask me about burlesque. I have George R.R. Martin's phone number and Wi-Fi password. You can ask me about goat farming. I still remember quite a few things about goat farming. Whatever's on your mind, let's just talk. Call us.
I have a feeling we have a lot of Game of Thrones fans in the audience, just because they're connected to me and I'm a huge GOT fan. Tell us the J.R.R. Martin story, please.
The George R.R. Martin. For 7 years, I performed and produced burlesque. That's actually where the name Moxie LaBouche came from. It was my burlesque stage name. And it was my distinct privilege to produce the only George R.R. Martin approved Game of Thrones burlesque tribute show. And he actually invited us to his theater in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And we got to play for the man himself. And I really need to stop bragging about it because it was 6 years ago. And I'm like that 30-year-old guy hanging outside the high school in his leather jacket. It's not cool after a while.
I still think it's cool. I wouldn't stop bragging about it until I were dead. So please.
Oh, no, my husband has an iron coin of Bravos that Mr. Martin gave to him, like from the man's own hand, that he carries in his wallet at all times. And I know that if my unconscious person and his wallet are in the burning house, he's getting the wallet first. And I accept that.
Understandable. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, for those who are fans of the show or the books, I was the smallest person on cast, so I played the Mountain, because he's the biggest character. Though, bonus fact, you see, I do a podcast called Your Brain on Facts. Bonus fact, the actor who played Hodor is 1.5 inches taller than the actor who played the Mountain the longest time.
No kidding.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, because the Mountain changed over multiple times.
Yeah, well, the last one, Thor, the previous World's Strongest Man,
right?
He's 1.5 inches shorter than the actor who plays Hodor.
Oh my
Look,
God.
it's obscure. You didn't ask for it, and I said it. That's the 3-point test for the veracity of facts.
And Hodor, I think, is a DJ also.
Yeah, Christian. I forget what his name is.
Something. Oh my God.
My husband also is a burlesque dancer. He will be when there's burlesque again, under the name Dante the Inferno, and he did a routine as George R.R. Martin.
No,
in front of George R.R. Martin. Yeah, so like lovingly making fun of the guy. Because one of the late night TV shows, talk shows, had done like, we cut now to George R.R. Martin working on the last book, and it's a guy dressed as him bouncing on a trampoline in a backyard. So we got one of those living room aerobics jogging trampolines, and he did his whole routine on that to the Todd Rundgren song "Bang the Drum." I don't want to work; I just want to play on the drum all day. So he had the padded belly, the beard, the fisherman's cap, suspenders, the whole nine.
Oh my God! And what was George's reaction to this?
He said he got a little nervous when it got to the bit where Dante bends over forwards and he wiggles out of his cotton boxers, but he had a smaller pair of cotton boxers on underneath. So like, Mr. Martin didn't know how low he was going to go with it. And at one point he has my husband in the routine has a heart attack because people are piss this man off constantly. But I hope we're working blue, by the way.
Yes.
Fully welcome. Do not ask Mr. Martin what happens if he dies before he finishes. It's a really rude question anyway.
Right.
He's had it enough. So Dante had a heart attack and resuscitated himself during the act. So he said it was the most nerve-wracking thing he's ever done in his life. And he used to work in the weapons systems in the Navy.
Oh my God.
This was This made him sweat more.
Oh my God. And George is okay with it. He thought,
oh yeah, no, he loved it.
things.
He thought it was great. Okay. He's just a nice, kind of quiet older man who drives a Tesla and knows where all the good brunch spots are.
You know, it sounds like a great human.
Yeah, he had this Art Deco movie theater, single screen movie theater restored, and his office is next door and upstairs, which is how I have his Wi-Fi password, because that was our dressing area, was the lobby of his office, was our dressing rooms for the weekend. And he has a smoked glass booth in the back, like how old Catholic churches would have the crying baby room in the back.
Right.
That way he can watch the movies and the events that they're doing without getting mobbed, because he's the king of Santa Fe, and people glom onto him whenever they see him.
Oh my God, I can imagine. I would totally fangirl over him. And then I'd smack him.
You have to compete. You have to compete with someone who slapped raspberry jelly onto her ass in front of him. That's the bar you have to clear. Because I had a doll of Oberyn Martell, and with a hollow head. I made this guy myself, and I put a jelly donut in before every performance, and I crush your head, crush your head.
Oh my God, I don't think
times.
I can do with that. I really don't.
Remind me to link you to our Jamie and Cersei routine. It was the best thing I've made in my entire life. I've done it 50 times. I would do it 50 more if I was back at my fighting weight. Menopause during lockdown. A few times.
You and I both. Yep.
Let's just talk about menopause the rest of the time.
You just sweat it out then, right?
And all the male viewers have just logged off.
Boom, the numbers drop. Oh my God, I'm speechless. Slapping your ass with raspberry jelly. All right. Oh my God. And in front of a legend. I can't even imagine doing that.
That's pretty cool. I can't imagine. Looking back, I've done a lot of things I can't imagine, but yet there I was.
Oh my God. Well,
I managed. I gave a TED talk. Now, granted, it was one of the local TED talks, but it still counts.
Right.
It still had trademarked TED in it.
I actually, so the picture that I use, and everyone, like the picture I used, I actually wasn't supposed to use. I'm sorry. Like never use a picture you don't ask permission for. It was her preparing for her TED Talk, which we talked over the weekend, and I didn't even know that you did a TED Talk.
Well, I'm trying not to constantly throw these things, shoehorn them into conversations. Again, it's like the creepy older guy in the letter jacket.
Right.
Yes, I managed to claw my way to a 3-minute spot in our Richmond, Virginia TED Talk one year, because the people who applied and were interviewed got full-size spots, and then they did an open mic night, and popular vote would decide who got a 3-minute spot. And you could vote by texting, and everybody cheated like hell. Everybody cheated like hell, except me, because I don't know enough people. I tried. I mean, I cheated as best I could, but I managed to tie with someone else, and they actually let us both have a spot. So I'm like, I only have 3 minutes. Didn't know what I was going to talk about for sure. It's going to be something burlesque related, because if I'm interested in something, I am all in.
Yeah.
It's my life for the next, say, 5 to 7 years.
Right.
And so I was working in a warehouse of a major online retailer named after a river. I shan't say who. You know who. And managed somehow to compose a TED Talk about burlesque in Seussian rhyming couplets.
Okay.
So I'm pushing my pick card around with my elbows, scribbling on a scrap piece of paper I found on the ground before I forgot any of it. So I gave a TED Talk on burlesque in rhyme.
Oh my God.
And I did remove 2 articles of clothing, of course, because it was burlesque, which will probably be the only time that theater has stripping on that stage. I mean, it's next door to where I did my shows. Right. I did my shows in the 150 seat room, not the 1,500 seat room, which costs $3,000 a day in tech fees.
Yeah. A little
the only time I'm ever going to step on that stage.
A little different. But I just imagine it just added a certain spice to the evening.
It was unexpected. I would say it's unexpected when burlesque shows up in places I think it might have been Michelle Lamore. Okay, I have memory issues from something we're going to bring up later. I got lightly struck by lightning one time, but we'll circle back to that. But there was a well-known established burlesque dancer who did a Knight Rider burlesque routine on America's Got Talent when David Hasselhoff was on there. But The judges didn't know burlesque was coming up, and like I think Brandy was the first person to give her the red X, and like it was a really good routine. And
Yeah.
she deserved better. And anyway, Brandy killed a guy one time, just so people remember that. With her car. But
I didn't know that. Oh my God.
yeah. But see, I've gone down a tangent and I lost my way, and I'm trying to get
Okay. Yeah.
trying to get back to where I
I'm
was.
lost with you, but
Oh, I was going to say about unexpected burlesque. That's
yeah.
why this was something that didn't come up in our last conversation that I just really want to share. Because if you're saying,
Mhm.
"Oh, why don't you share that more?" This would probably be the most important thing I ever did when I was a burlesque dancer. At one of our Jim Henson shows, we met a 102-year-old woman named Vera. I figured she was probably in her 80s, but no, her daughter said, no, she's 102. I'm like, oh my God, you look great. She looked 102. And she's still working. I'm like, really? Like, oh, do you volunteer at the library or something? And she says, no, I sit in a chair by the door at the sperm bank. And as the men are leaving, I say, thank you for coming. And I immediately screamed for my husband. I screamed for our MC, who's a 20-year veteran road comic. I was like, we gotta meet Vera. And we immediately adopted her. She was ours now. But a year later, you know, she's getting near the jumping off place. She's 103 years old. She can't come to the shows anymore. She's turned an unusual color. So Dante and I took a little show to her. We took two of our favorite routines and ones that we knew that she liked, and just did burlesque in her living room. But nobody told her home care nurse that we were coming. So it was a bit of a surprise for her when the strippers showed up. Especially because Vera hadn't lost a step. She was still a dirty old man in a little old lady's body. And she said, I'd be up there with you, but I'm wearing a diaper.
Oh my God. I think it's better that like someone doesn't know what's going on in that situation. It just adds an element.
I'm sure she'd describe it just like that. Yes.
Now, you just alluded to it, but you got struck by lightning.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. You know, I don't know if there's variations of being struck by lightning.
I mean, there is. There's everything from slight tingle to being atomized into a fine red mist. And
right.
I'm somewhere over here, thankfully.
Okay, well, I'm glad to hear that. And obviously, you know, we're talking, so, you know, it wasn't that bad. But I have some questions. Did you lose your sense of taste and smell?
That was the least of my issues in the moment.
Yeah, well, yeah, obviously. But I talked about this, and I'm like, oh shoot, I forgot.
Well, let's set the scene for our viewers at home.
Yes, please.
So I used to raise goats and make goat milk soap and skincare products. That's how I earned my living. And it was raining like hell on a hot May evening. And I was trying to convince a goat named Cyanide to come out of the barn so I could milk her. And she was like, no, turn off the sky water and we'll renegotiate this. When the loudest noise I've ever heard in my life sounded right over my head. And as I was falling into the mud, I had three distinct thoughts in an instant. Stupid electric fence. I haven't plugged that in weeks. I think I've just been struck by lightning. And I couldn't move the hand that had been on the fence for some time. I told the goat, I don't even care if you get mastitis. You've made your choice. I go into my house and find out that it's on fire because the bolt of lightning had hit the house, lit the cellulose insulation in one of the walls on fire, and that stuff's hard to put out. Yeah. And then it dissipated out through the ground to where I was standing with my hand on the wire fence.
Oh my God.
I couldn't do arithmetic in my head for a couple of weeks. My logic center was temporarily unavailable, down for service. And that was 10 years and 2 weeks ago, and I still have not such a great memory. The files are occasionally 404.
Okay, great. But it doesn't affect your voice. You have this beautiful voice for voiceover.
I thank you very much. All the credit for that has to go to my mother, who was in FM radio in the 60s and 70s. So all six of her daughters can immediately drop into their radio voice.
Oh, no kidding. That's so fun.
I'm just the only one doing anything with it.
Right. And I know you're talking about there are certain different projects that you're working on currently and certain things that you prefer to do to those. What are you working on right now?
Well, by and large, my voiceover business, or what I want it to be, is corporate voiceovers. And that's everything from employee training, e-learning, making courses you want to just have selling on your website as passive income, phone menus. I love doing phone menus. Commercials, of course, the biggie. But when you're getting started in a business, I've only been in this business about a year, you take what gigs you can get. Yep. And I I'm not great with character voices. It's not a strong area for me, and it's not actually an area I want to be in. So I turn my focus to where my NPR voice will do the most good. But I took what I thought was going to be a one-off, cheesy vampire romance book, which was either written by an AI or a non-native speaker, or was stolen from somewhere, passed back and forth through Google Translate to mangle it just slightly so the copyright software doesn't notice it, and then given to me 3 pages at a time to read. Well, it turned out to be, I think, like a internet-based radio drama or something that I'm doing, because I'm 46 finished hours into it. If you're an audiobook listener, you know that they don't usually go, 46, 50 hours. We're actually looking at a total of probably about 90,
Oh
80
my
or 90 finished hours. But even though it is awful, and it is awful.
And can I just say to the audience, like, I read just a little excerpt, like 3 sentences. It is bad.
Well, the 3 sentences, but it lasted that long, didn't it?
Oh my, yes, it did. It was a whole paragraph, but it is 3 sentences, and it made very little sense.
Almost none.
Almost.
But the thing is, I can read it and make it sound like it made sense, and then quickly get past it if I can to something, to some more stable ground, so I can, you won't even know what happened. We'll be on to the next thing by then.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's very badly written in terms of the language skills and continuity. Characters change name for no reason, which is why I think it was maybe boosted, which I don't believe I have any legal exposure in that. I'm just the piano player.
Right.
So I think that strikes me as a find and replace all error when the characters' names suddenly change.
Mm-hmm.
There was, of course, a sex scene, which I wasn't warned about, but knew was coming, but was still disappointed when it arrived. And it lasted an hour. The finished hour.
Oh,
and it wasn't even a full sex scene. This was just like the preliminaries. What am I in for, Oh, and then 40 hours of world building in. Now we have werewolves. Okay, good. 5 more hours and the chick's a fallen angel.
Right.
I'm not making it up. That's been my week.
As a sci-fi fantasy fan, this is the downside.
This does not cut muster.
There's some garbage out there. This is why, like, when you go into a bookstore as a sci-fi fantasy fan, you have to find someone who works there, and you have to be like, hey, do you know sci-fi fantasy? Because I don't want garbage.
Well, sci-fi suffers the same thing as romance. I was listening to a 99% Invisible, a really good podcast that definitely doesn't need my help promoting. And they were doing an episode about romance novels. And it was said that romance is the only genre that is judged by the worst examples. Every other kind of writing is judged by the best examples. But I'd say honorable mention for sci-fi, because I think when people think of sci-fi, they think of a lot of cheesy crap, pulp sci-fi. And I'm saying this as a hardcore sci-fi nerd. My dad had the entire original Star Trek on tape commercial free when our PBS affiliate somehow got licensed for it really cheaply one year. I don't know how. My mom would buy him literally grocery bags full of used sci-fi paperbacks, and he would read them all in 6 months. So when I say sci-fi books are often crap, they're often crap. So you got to be careful.
Right.
You might think you're getting Interview with a Vampire, and you end up with Twilight.
And like a worse Twilight where Edward changes names halfway through.
Yeah, and this guy's just now a werewolf, just in time for the girl to say she's not actually interested in him after all. So I wonder why we bothered.
Right.
And I wonder a lot of things about this story. I really, really do. But if not, it's making me even less interested in doing character voices, because I have to do, the character voices for that. And you might think when you're doing it, oh, I can absolutely see the character that I'm voicing. This is definitely the voice of a tiny, weazened, gravelly old man. And this is the voice of an effeminate socialite who's very dramatic. And you play it back and you're like, this just sounds like me 3 times. Where did all of that go? Because the energy you put into the microphone seems to reduce in a very short half-life before it gets to the headphones.
Right.
Like, and this is a problem that I'm working to overcome myself. I work with a great coach named Tawny Plattis. I'll be happy to link anybody to that who wants to, get better at public speaking or whatever voice problems you've got, go ahead and start at 11, because you're going to think, oh, that was a good friendly read. No, it kind of sounds like you're reading the school lunch report, the school lunch menu. You know, you've got to do it with ridiculous amounts of energy. You'd be surprised how really physically tiring doing voiceover can be. I can only do about an hour of that vampire book, or whatever the hell it is, per day, because an hour is also not an hour. You might have heard me referencing finished hours.
Right.
That's the metric that really matters, because that's what you get paid on.
Right.
So finished hours are very important. But you could put 6 working hours into the recording and editing of each finished hour. That's not uncommon. Even people who are very good at it, who do their own editing, estimate between 4 and 5 working hours per finished hour. So if I have any authors who have looked at having audiobooks made or would like to, by the way, I love narrating nonfiction audiobooks, call me. That's why the narrator wants so much money.
Right.
Because it takes you an hour to listen to it. It took me 6 hours to make it.
Right. And for my friends out there who are in the Writing a Book Club, after talking to Moxie, I'm convinced I do not want to narrate my own book. And you probably don't want to
save yourself the effort.
Yeah, no, thank you. And so let's come to you are wanting to build your business more towards doing the corporate stuff, doing nonfiction books, correct?
Yeah, the other big pivot is that I built my business in the freelance marketplaces of like Fiverr and Upwork and those places where you spend all day refreshing that job posting and trying to jump on them before everybody else. And it's a hard way to earn a mean living. It's very inconsistent. And it's very much just like being a vending machine. They give me the $50, I give them the file, we never speak again.
Right.
And most of my clientele are in, Eastern Europe or India or China. So when I talk to somebody in, here in Virginia where I live or anywhere in the States, I'm like, oh, you do voiceovers. What have you done? They mean, what have you done that I've heard?
Right.
Unless you live in India, nothing. Right. So
do you want to call this number in India? You can hear my voice on the thing.
Yeah. That would be ironic. I'm the voice of the spam calls in India. It's just speculation. I did not actually do that. I have not had a bad enough week in VO yet that I would take a robo-dialer job.
Right, right. Well, you're a decent human being. I would expect not.
Well, maybe I would be doing it to soften the blow.
Maybe.
Hi, we've been trying to reach you about your car's extended warranty. Maybe at least make it sound good for you for a second. But no, so the two things I want are to be working locally and domestically, and also to be building business relationships, to have an ongoing relationship with my customers, so that, even if it's another 3 years since they last ordered from me, they say, oh, we need to do a new video. Let's call Moxie for the voiceover. I want to be their go-to person for that.
Right. And I can speak as, as a business coach and strategist, having a consistent voice. If you're going to have a voice that's not your own, it needs to be consistent across all platforms, because that voice is part of your brand now. It's
sonic branding.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jody Krangle does a really good podcast. I believe it's called Audio Branding. Hers is, and it's about the importance of the way sound is used, particularly voiceover, but sound in general is used in building a business.
Right.
Not a sponsor. But Jody, if you want to give me some money, I can keep saying nice things about you. Call me here at the studio.
Can someone tag her, please, in the comments? Someone who's watching. And Moxie,
anybody who'll give me money. Tag them all.
Yes. And Moxie, you have an offer that you're wanting to make to the world of entrepreneurs, anyone who has a website, is building their brand online. And I just want to give you an opportunity to say it.
Absolutely. I would like to give you a free voiceover. No cost involved, a couple of little conditions, everything in life casts a shadow. You're going to have to work a little bit for it. Because what I need is 2 things. I need you to actually use the voiceover. So I will be asking for a modest deposit, which you get right back as soon as you let me link to where you actually used it. We can talk if it's an internal thing. We can talk about that. So a deposit just to make sure it actually gets used. No time wasters. And I need reviews. I need reviews on my Google page and the LinkedIn endorsements and all that really great stuff that's just the juicy sauce for the Google SEO gods. And I don't care if you copy and paste the same paragraph across all platforms. Fine by me. That's what I did for the guy who installed my solar panels. And all you got.
Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, and then all you got to do is just email contact@moxielabouche.com. If you need to find me, just start typing Moxie. By the time you get to LA, I should pop right up.
And I just want to say to everyone, like, this is an incredibly generous offer. The kind of work that Moxie does is something that would take your business site to the next level if you have any assets on there that require a voiceover.
Yeah, so if you've got that little explainer video sitting there, there's also been A/B testing on social media ads that the ones with voice, do better. And it's a real easy thing to add. Even if you're like, say, all wrapped up with your video editor, I can just send me the video file. I'll slap the voice track on. That doesn't cost anything. It's easy. It's you and me. Let's work together and work it out.
Awesome. And then also, if you're writing a book, Moxie, honestly, I'm probably going to use you for my book. So
I would be pleased and honored.
Yes. And I'll give you.
You don't know what I had to go through to be able to narrate my own book.
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
I have the Your Brain on Facts book, but I could not convince my publisher. No, I actually can competently narrate this. I know all your authors think they can, but look at the stuff. I have the things. And it took me a year to convince them. And the whole time they were shopping it out to the studios they normally work with, whose in-house talent would do it. How friggin' weird would it be if you bought the audiobook of a book based on a podcast and anyone other than the podcaster was reading it? Really bad for my branding too.
Right.
It really hurt my branding. Thankfully, every studio turned them down because a lot of audiobook studios they don't have people that like doing nonfiction books.
Right.
Because if it's a business or a scientific one, it can be kind of dry. I don't mind. I love that stuff. Give me nonfiction all day long.
As long as there's no vampires who turn into werewolves and have different names and weird sex scenes.
Or at least just write it better. Just write it better. That's all I ask. I don't mind if it's crap. Just write your crap competently. And I'm saying this as a writer of stacks of embarrassing fan fiction back in the day. Again, that's the bar you got to clear. You just please make your published story better than my Firefly fan fiction.
Firefly, oh God.
I almost said Forever Night, and if anyone actually remembers that show, absolutely connect with me just so we can high five and then look slightly ashamed of ourselves.
You heard it here first, folks. Oh man, Moxie, this has been so much fun. Do you have any final words of wisdom for our audience?
Yeah, well, let's go with an absolute platitude that I was thinking about the other day, because a lot of people have been fussing about a lot of things, well, since the beginning of time, but particularly over this last year. And sometimes it's the big things you can't change, in which case there's no point in complaining. But if it's something you could change, there was a saying that I saw once that I really liked. It's super corny and homey, but you can complain about your bread and water, or you can get up and make toast and tea.
Love that. Absolutely love that. And what a great lesson, or what a great thing to remind entrepreneurs, because we can always turn something into something better.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of the businesses that are, super huge multinational conglomerates were companies that turned liabilities into assets, let alone improving assets. Right.
Yeah. So we're all naturally creative, resourceful, and whole. It's one of the foundations of the coaching that I got trained in. David Fryman here. We have I think people were too entertained to ask questions. Thank you, David. This is fun to be in. Moxie, I hope you'll join me again at some point.
Anytime you ask, I will be here.
Okay. Oh my God. And then
it could have something to do with my desperate need for attention. I'm not sure.
Me too. It's fine. It's totally okay.
I blame that on being one of 6 children.
Right. No, I was just self-centered growing up, so it's fine. But anyway, if anyone
column A, some from column B. Okay, I'll shut up so you can actually close your show.
It's
have my
like I
tasty.
told you, the ends of these lives are always super awkward. So you've just like helped us clear that bar. We made it.
I mean, we could, if you'd like, we can switch from the Jewish goodbye to the Irish goodbye, and I can just log off.
Okay, let's do it proper. Let's do it proper. And Scott Thompson, we are very entertained. Thank you for being on the show, Moxie. Awesome.
Thank you for watching.
Yes, thank you everyone for watching. Moxie, if anyone wants to get in touch with Moxie about doing voiceover, please reach out to her. And if you can't find her on the internet, which I doubt because she's all over TED Talk,
Though strangely, if you Google Moxie VO, you get a hair salon. And I can't figure out why. I looked at their website. I don't know where the VO comes from, but if you Google Moxie VO, you get a hair salon. So that's not me. But I see that some of you guys are on LinkedIn right now. I'm on LinkedIn right now. Send me a connection request and we can talk.
There we go. Yeah. So connect with Moxie. Reach out to her for any of your things. She is offering free voiceover work with a couple stipulations where you actually have to use it on your website, but otherwise it's free. And I highly recommend using it. And I'm Katie McManus.
And these can be $200-$300 jobs. I'm not talking rinky-dink stuff. I mean, like a proper job.
Yeah. So if you have a project in mind, just reach out to her, ask her about it, and she'll tell you exactly how to move forward. And as always, thank you for joining our little wild adventure that we have here on My Lives. I'm Katie McManus, business strategist, and this is Moxie LaBouche, voiceover actor. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you all next time. Bye.
Keep your sunny side up.